All right, my friends, I want to show you what we've been working so hard on that's been delaying the beta for about a week now, and that is the awesomeness that is our crazy little HUD designer here. It's going to seem really simple at first, and then I want hopefully your brains will start to percolate as to all the possibilities that this is going to open up. So let's take a look at this new version of the tool, and you're going to see it's got a HUD and boxes interface. I'm going to load up a save state here just so we have some stuff to work with, and we'll start looking at what this does. This is not a tutorial on how to use this. This is just a feature video to show one of the cool new things that the tool can do. So this is my little screen right here, and you were relegated to like the top part of it was your HUD and whatever, and you were kind of stuck using that, but not anymore. So now let's take a look at HUD and boxes. You can actually define your playable area and your HUD area this way, and you can define what tiles your boxes actually use. Eventually, this interface is going to be used to make all kinds of different boxes, like text boxes or, pop-up game over screen messages or, whatever. Right now, it's just used for the HUD. There's only one box that it creates as we sort of work out a lot of the details with the other stuff. But even still, this is super cool, and I'll show you why. First of all, it's super simple to set up your playable area and your HUD area, and you can actually look at any screen that's in your game depending on its coordinates to see where things would be. So for instance, let's say I want my HUD to be on the bottom. I can select an area and say set the HUD, and then I want this area to be my playable area. Bam. And right now it's on a 16 by 16 grid. So I want this to be my playable area, and I want my HUD to be along the side. I can do that too. And this is all just dead space right here. When I get to here, it'll change screens as if I'm at the top of the screen. Whatever. The reason it's on a 16 by 16 grid for the HUD is that it has to go with the attributes, and the attributes are on a 16 by 16 grid, and that deals with the color. So when the background changes to the HUD quote unquote color, it needs to do so in a 16 by 16 box area. It can't just do the 8 by 8 tiles. So we decided to keep the HUD on that 16 by 16 grid, and the playable area sort of by default is, and honestly, it's enough flexibility for most purposes. The next thing you can do, and I'm going to show you moving around the HUD, is you can actually set the tiles of the HUD. And now we've made this into a modifiable asset that you can get into the pixel editor, mess with the BMP, create your own BMP, copy and paste things in and out of HUDs and stuff like that. So it works just like the other tile sets. So super easy to change the letters, or the extra graphics, or if you want to put all your numbers first and then some things and then all the letters. And what's great is you can go through individually and say, okay, I want 0 to actually be that. And it updates to that. And if I click off and go back, you can see it chooses what it is. I want 0 to be that. And let's say you made a tile set where all your numbers are first, and on the first row, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. Instead of having to go through one by one and click, you could actually say, okay, I'm going to set my numbers starting with that, and it goes through the first 10 values, 0 through 9, and set them. And you can see it says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 right now. If I set it here, if I said set numbers and I started here, it says C1, C0, C2, C2, C3, C4. The C is in reference to where this shows up on the tile set in the game. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C. So this is rows C, D, E, and F, and that's 16 rows. That's the bottom of your tile set. This is what we have it for now. Eventually, we'll probably make it so this is a malleable size, and you can change the amount of space you reserve for your HUD. It's pretty traditional for people to want letters and numbers loaded, and this gives you a little extra flexibility for some graphics and things like that. That's why we put it to 4 rows. So anyway, I'm going to set my numbers to 0, and if your letters are in order from A to Z as well, you can set your letters. And you could also just go through and click for each of these. Select on A and say which one I want for A, that one. You could do that too. The setting numbers and setting letters was just a way to speed up that process. Similarly, you could choose your punctuation. You could say blank tile is F5, and a lot of times my blank tile is the same as space. Now, not necessarily, because like let's say I wanted a blank tile to be a black tile, but I wanted a space to be like all my HUD had a blue background or something like that, then my space would be plain blue. So there might be some things. There's also like you can user define 8 values and what they are. So when you're writing strings, you can set what these values are set to on here, and like I could have it in the middle of a sentence, make a heart or something like that. You know, you could do that. I don't know if the functionality is here for that to do easily from this output editor, but you could actually get into the string and just put in this value, and I can show you how to do that. Anyway, we're just going through real quick. These guys right here represent the top left of the box, the top center of the box, the top right of the box, bottom left, bottom center, bottom right, left, right, and what's essentially a blank tile, the center tile of the box. So what I could do is, like, let's say I wanted the top left to be this sort of top bracket, and I wanted the top center to be this up arrow, and I wanted the top right to be this bracket, and then I want the bottom left to be this bottom bracket, and then I wanted the bottom center to be a down arrow, and then I wanted the bottom right to be this bottom right bracket, and then I wanted the left to be this left arrow, and I wanted the right to be this right arrow, and I wanted center just to be sort of a blank tile. Okay, so now what it'll do is the top left corner is going to be this, and all the way across the top of this box, this will be that edging, and all the way across the top will be the up arrow until it gets here, be the corner, and then it'll be left arrows all the way down until it'll be that bracket, and then down arrows all the way across, and then that bracket. And if I go to test, export, and test, check this out, kind of cool. Bam. And if you're wondering where the up arrows are, you actually lose an 8x8 area along the top and along the bottom when you're designing. So it's important to know that when you're designing, and that's how the CRTs worked. But if I look at my name table, there it is at the very top. I can see that. All right. So if I come back over here, I'm like, you know what? I wanted a bottom HUD instead. I could take this, make this my playable area, make this my HUD area, test, export, and test. Bam. And what's cool is if I get to the bottom, this is now the bottom because of where I set my playable area to. So it told the game that my bounds are now right there. So when I get to here, it's going to go to the next screen, and it's going to put them all the way at the top, like this. Like that. And if I go up, it put me there. So it's respecting the bounds when I change screens like that. Okay, very cool. I could also easily make like a side. Let's set that to bounds, and let's set this to playable area. Oops. Like that. If you're making, especially like a puzzle game or something like that, I'm imagining like the side menu in Tetris first comes to mind, you know, or Dr. Mario, you know, you might have something in here that's giving you some indication of what's coming up next or anything like that. So really easy, and you can see it respects the edge. Bam, bam. If I come over here. So really cool, easy way to update like so many things all at once. I'm going to make my playable area, oops, my HUD area here, my playable area here. Keep doing that. Playable area, HUD area, sorry, playable area. Bam. Okay. So that's how the tiles and the box builder work. Skip assets for a second. We're going to get there in a second. We're going to go to elements. So I want to put things in here that, you know, words that say things, and every box can have 8 different element types, and you can cleverly use these to get a lot of different effects. First and foremost, I'm just going to have it say a word. So I'm going to use the type text. And what's really cool about the word is I could just type something. HUDs are really cool. Exclamation point, or dot, dot, dot. Yes. Question mark, exclamation point. And now I can move that around. Just with moving this X and Y. And what I see there is going to relate to what I see in the game. So when I export and test, it's going to automatically update that first HUD element here. And there we go. And you can see it's like one row up from the bottom. And it uses the subpalette 3, the last subpalette. So if I look at my PP, it's using this subpalette. So black, red, green, blue. That's why the blue is showing up as white in my HUD. Okay, so really cool. That's really easy to add, just static text. Let's actually use this for like a purpose and say health, and let's move it up one like that. And so I would draw my actual health down here. Let's actually do this for a second. So I'm going to add another element, and this element type is going to be variable tiles. All right, and with the variable tiles, I get to set an empty tile and a full tile. So this is like basically a life meter or something like that, or a magic meter, or a speed meter, or an ammo meter, or something like that, where you've got like an empty graphic and then a full graphic. I can go to empty tile and I can set it to whatever I want. Maybe I just don't want to show anything. Maybe I want like an empty graphic to look like an O, and you know, I'm kind of cheating with this, but and I want my full tile to look like a crystal ball, like that. So, you know, I could, what it's showing right now, this isn't actually showing me how much is full and how much is empty. This is just splitting it in half and showing me, okay, full, empty, next to each other. Max value is determining how long this health string is. So if I want this to be longer, I could have it up to 8 places. I can make it longer. I can make it shorter if I only wanted like 2 health possible. I like the symmetry of having it the same length as health right now. And that's to draw the max value. So it's going to draw 6 empty units of health. Then it's going to look at string. This is a variable. It's going to draw the value of this variable in full tiles. So it's going to look at global player 1 health, and it's going to draw that many full tiles over the top of this. Now, there's a little bit of work I have to do to make this actually function correctly. First of all, where did I get global player 1 health? How am I supposed to know that? Well, there's actually a file called user variables, and it's in routines, variables, user variables. And it kind of gives you an explanation. First of all, I have to create variables. I already have a variable called player 1 health, and it gets 1 byte. Lives gets 1 byte, and score can be up to 8 places of numbers. The way that this is set up. Now, these are just some custom variables that I created to make this easy, some common things, okay? The other thing that I have to do is, for each of these, if I want to see the change, if I want to see that when I do something, the health changes, or when I do something, the lives change, I need to build HUD variables. So I'll just name them HUD underscore update health. You can name this whatever you want, but it's going to be like you're going to be using this value to make changes to that, what you see on the screen in your code. Like when I run into a bad guy, this is the thing that gets triggered. All right. So if I look at init loads, what I have to do is I can set init loads is in routines, initialization scripts, init loads. I can set up some initial values for variables, like initially my score is all set to 0, and initially I have 0 set to global player health. And that's okay, because as soon as the player comes on screen, it's going to set my global player 1 health to his max health value. I am going to give him lives. I'm going to give him 5 lives, and we're going to deal with that in a second. So this is sort of constrained to an object, and what it's going to do is my code has it so it's going to look at the player. Sorry. It's going to look at this player, and it's going to look at his object details, and it's going to say, oh, he's got 6 health. So at the beginning of the game, it's going to give him a max value of 6 there. know that might seem a little bit confusing, but it's not as bad as you might think. And then what I've got to do here is I need to set these variables. So if I want to actually see a change in update health, I need to load which element controlled the health. So if I look at my HUD and my boxes, which element should show the change in health? That was element number 2. So I'm going to say load, just like this right here, HUD element 2. And I'm going to store it to this variable. So the second HUD element is the one that I'm showing the variable amount of health that I have. That's what this is saying. So I know that's a little bit confusing. We're looking for a way to do this inside the tool, but as it is right now, it's only a couple lines of code, and we're going to show this a little bit more detail with better explanation in an actual tutorial. But for right now, what you can see is if I test, export, and test, I not only see the word health, but I get a value for health, and it's starting off full. And if I run into a bad guy, I lose health, and it shows me an empty one. And as I go to the next screen and I come back, it still stays that way. And if I run out of health, I'll die, and it'll come back and give me full health again. So that's super cool, and you saw how sort of easy it was to get health in there. And you know, if I decide that I want to put this next to health, instead, and I want to show this, or you know, something like that, I could do that, and then maybe move this over a little bit so I can go to test. And export and test. And now my health, it was that easy for me to update the placement, and the behavior stays the same. So again, we'll do that one more time, except now I'll add another element, and I'm going to make some text. I'm going to call this score, and I'm going to put it right underneath. Actually, yeah, no, that's okay. I'll put it right there. And so if I export and test element 3, now element 3, it doesn't update, so I don't have to do that thing with the variables. It's just a static text. So now I've got health and I've got score. So now I want to make a score, and when I defeat these monsters, I want it to give me points, and I want it to reflect right here. And I'm going to put it right underneath, and I'm going to give it 6 values just to make it look good, you know, make it look sort of symmetrical. So here I'm going to use a different type. I'm going to use the type of, it's a number. So the max value for this number, I'm going to make it look like this. It's going to be 6, and it's going to use global player 1 score. And if you look, it's already a variable that I've set up. That's why I'm using it. I've already set up a global variable score that has 8 places, which is going to be important. I don't have to use all those 8 places. This is determining how many places I'm actually using that score right here with this max value. So now I have to put this somewhere. Those numbers are not what it's going to say. It's going to reflect whatever's in the score, which at the beginning of my game, I actually only gave it values for 3 places. It's going to be 0, 0, 0. They should all be 0 right now. But I'll show you real quick. So I now have to link element 4 to this global variable the same way I did before. So if I come back over here, I already set up this variable, but what I need to do is I need to tell it that my load HUD element 4 and store it to HUD update score. That right there, which is something that I've already set these all up in code, so it knows what to do with that information. And like I said, in deeper tutorials, advanced tutorials, I'm going to show you guys how to handle this. So now if I go to export and test, I've got a score. And if I beat up my monsters, I'll get points. And that guy was worth 1, and this guy is worth 5. So go to the next screen, come back. So now this guy will flip over to 11 when I beat him. And now I'll have 12. Oops, I'm not sure why he bounced up there. There, now he's got 12. So there you go. That's how I can assign a variable to a numeric variable and also a pictorial variable. Pretty neat. All right. So I'll just do one more, and I'll do an image type. I could add lives here or something like that. I'm gonna hold off on showing you guys the variable image one because I'm still sort of tweaking it, and there's some more deeper coding that has to go on. So I'm gonna save that for the tutorial set. With the image type, though, if I want to draw an image, I want to go to assets. All right, and I'm going to create an asset to draw. I'm actually going to use this area to create a graphic to draw. And I'm going to add a, let's see, 2 by 2 graphic, and I'm going to call it arrows. And I'm going to make it all 4 of these arrows, something like that, okay? Not really a sensible graphic. You know what? I'll add another one. And this one I'll make it 2 by 2. And I'll call this one stuff. And stuff will be the 4, let's see, music note, sword, shield, all the Mystic Searches HUD stuff. So now I've got 2 different assets. If I go to HUD elements now and I go to this a new element, I can go to HUD asset and I can say which one of these I want to draw. So I want to put that arrow asset. So this might be like an avatar for your player or something. And maybe for number 6, I want a HUD asset and I want it to be HUD asset 1 never saved. Stop. I must need to click off it. It's there, but for some reason the name did not stay with me. But that's not that big a deal. So now I've got words defined that I define with a string. I've got variable values that I define with variables, shown in pictures, shown in numbers, and I've got entire images. And if I go to export and test, and I can see what that looks like. I've got the words that I told it to draw. I've got the variable that I told it to draw in images. I've got the variable that I told it to draw in numbers. I've got 2 images that I was able to actually just create really easily with this asset generator. And not only that, the variable image one is really cool. It reads a variable. The problem is it has to also create a table, which you'd have to do manually, which is a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing, which is why I'm going to save that for a longer tutorial on specifically that one, and or me and Josh are going to streamline the process. So it's still a work in progress, but all of that is functional and working. And I'll tell you what, just for kicks, let's add lives so you can see lives actually working too. I'm going to go to element 7. I'm going to make it I'll make a variable tiles one. Let me make the word lives. So I'm going to make text. I'm going to call it lives. I'm going to put it, there it is. Come on, where are you? There you are. I'm going to put my lives right there, and there are, well, you know what? I'll do this. Lives, so that way when I have 6 of them, it'll be right under there. So my element 8 is going to be variable tiles with a max value of 6. and it's going to be controlled by global player one lives. Again, these are variables that I already have that already exist. I will show you in tutorials how you can create your own variables to do your own things. My empty tile will be the 0 again, I guess. I probably would make a really cool empty tile for this if I was really doing it. And my lives will be represented by the sword, I guess. And where is it? There it is. So this will show how many lives I have. I want it to start with 6. And the way that I could have it start with 6, well, I could just make it 3, I guess. So I'll give it 3 lives, and I'll sort of center the 3 lives under there like that. Okay, that looks nice. And how I sync this, how I link that up, oops, sorry, wrong window. How I link that up is I've already got something called HUD Update Lives. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say that's element 8. So load HUD element 8, stay HUD update lives, and at the beginning of the game I'm going to give him 3 lives right there. So hopefully when I test this out, and again, I've already coded lives to work, so I've already done, like, lives don't necessarily mean what, just because you have them, you have, when you run out of health, you die, or that you can't make a game without health, or you can't make a game without lives. I've just pre-programmed some stuff that's pretty common to video games, and then, we can always change that and stuff like that. I don't want anybody to think that they're locked to that style of game. But now if I lose all my health, I'll die, and when it starts over, I've lost a life, and I've got my health back, and it started me at the starting position. Kind of cool is that sucks. Okay, so I've also set up this new type of tile, which it would play a sound if I had the volume up, which allows me to, this is a continue point. So now, if I run into these bad guys, I will lose health, but it'll actually start me at the continue point, which is super cool. So if I die one more time, I only have 1 life left. It'll restart the game. So now I lost. So there you go. Now the game's restarted. I've got full lives. I've got full health. I've got 0 score. So that's a really sort of quick breakdown. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this HUD look a little cooler without these arrows. And I'll show you what. While I'm doing that, I'm going to move the whole thing to the bottom of the screen. I said, I don't like it there at the top of the screen anymore. I'm going to move it down here. I'm going to set my HUD area, and then I'm going to make this my whole playable area here. And what's that going to look like? I would design this screen differently, depending on where I put my HUD, for sure. So now my HUD's going to be down here. And I want my, let's see, my top left these are just going to be empty. In fact, all these are going to be empty. Except the bottom. The bottom is going to use the dots here, the ellipses. Nope, I lied. The bottom is going to use this dash. So all along the bottom will be that dash, and then all the center tiles will be. And you could get really creative with adding borders and stuff. So now if I export and test, and I can't even see, that's right, because I put it at the bottom. So let me change that to all my top are dashes. Then I'll see that. That's sort of the effect I wanted to have, where there's a clear separation between the HUD area and the gameplay area. And you can see the dashes, and my HUD is now down here. And what's really cool is, it starts me in the correct place now as I'm moving around the game. It automatically respects those bounds that I set up. So That's a quick overview. I hope you guys dig this. I can't wait to actually get the tutorials for this next beta out, which is going to take me a couple of days. Be patient with me. But this is why that it took this extra time. We thought this was cool enough to wait for. We hope you agree. Can't wait to see what you guys do with this awesome stuff. So thanks for watching, and talk to you soon.